0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Phixated podcast. I am your host, Mike Azalina, and I am joined tonight by, I don't know, like maybe a possible Giant fan. There are so many new ones this week that I can't really decide whether or not you're one. Right?
First of all, how dare you slander me on our Philly sports podcast, you bastard. I do unfortunately have family members that are Giants fans, so
I do too.
If any of them are listening to this, you know, your team sucks, and we'll prove that in a few days.
I do too.
But how dare you come at me like that? We said we were going to make fun of Giants fans, and then you come at my throat as a potential Giants fan, man. I feel
like there are just so many new ones this week.
I mean, they are coming out of the sewers, but I should never be counted among them.
No, so I was talking about it with a friend of the show, Randy, today, and he's like, they're just everywhere. Like, I get on social media and there's just post upon post about being a Giant fan. And, you know, to be expected, right? Like, we saw a lot of that with the Philly fans during the World Series run. But yeah, just a little fun start to our show there. You know, actually, Phil is a Giants fan.
I know. I don't understand why. He literally grew up in the South Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Like,
we had a very diverse football house. All right, let's do this. This is fun. So you and I are both Birds fans.
Yes.
Banksy's not really an NFL guy.
No. But I think he would lean Eagles if tugged.
Well, I think because of us.
He generally is a Philly guy, though. He's a Sixers fan. Like, he's a Phillies fan. Like,
yeah.
But you're right.
Banksy, you joined the club.
Yeah.
All right. Rye is a Jets fan.
Yes.
Josh is a Cowboys fan.
Yes.
Phil is a Giant fan.
Yep.
And Stein is a Colts fan.
Yeah, of course.
Or whoever
won that week. Whatever bet he won that week is who he's a fan of.
Exactly. Love you, Stein. I love you, man.
Traitorous bastard.
But like, that's kind of wild when you think about it. What did we do on Sundays?
Well, since we went to school in a place that only got usually Eagles games, Josh always had to hope that the Eagles and Cowboys played at different times because they would always be on Fox.
Yeah.
Ryan, I mean, the Jets have been horrible since even we were in college, so I don't know what he did. I think he would.
I feel like he followed on his computer.
Yeah, we would all be sitting in one of the two living rooms with our laptops watching the Yahoo Fantasy.
Yeah.
Because we were all in a league.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd be watching like the stat tracker on one, which also kept track of the games on the left side. You know, you could click on each game and see what was going on.
Yeah.
While watching, you know, whatever game was on at the time.
Yeah. Do you remember what we did on Monday nights for Monday Night Football?
We would go to Pizza Town. And
what
drink
would we do?
$1 beers.
$1 pitchers.
Which he eventually turned into $3 pitchers because we were going back to the counter so often.
And what did I order?
What did you order?
With the beers. What did I get every time we went there? Same thing. Same snack every time.
Chicken fingers and French fries, I'm assuming?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Every time. Do you know, we were there. Do you remember it was a Monday night game against the Cowboys? It was the game Deshaun dropped the ball before he got to the end zone. Do you remember that?
Yes.
We were there for that.
Yep.
Because the Pizza Town guys were Cowboy fans.
Yeah, that's right.
And we used to they loved us.
No,
they didn't
it was
love that we almost
natured.
robbed them of beer.
No, we did.
But
just the six of us.
But it was really, there weren't a lot of people that would go take advantage of that.
No, there were not. But we
lived
lived
shouting
distance from Pizza Town, like literally shouting distance.
Yeah, we would walk there every Monday night.
Yep.
All 7 of us.
And each of us would get a $3 pitcher. No, it made no difference.
Yeah, we would go every single Monday.
Yep.
And watch the Monday night game there. When it was the Eagles or one of our teams, it was extra special.
Oh, of course.
But when the Eagles and the Cowboys played on Monday night, the guys that ran Pizza Town, it was really fun because we would just go back and forth with them for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
you want to know my go-to order at Pizza Town at the time?
Tell me.
A pizza steak. So a cheesesteak with provolone and marinara sauce, and one slice of their square pizza, which was fantastic.
I mean, that
was
really
the
good.
go-to order.
I know, and Steiny loved the buffalo chicken sub.
That's right. And they were a pizza place with a drive-through window.
They were.
It was fantastic.
They were.
Yeah.
You are correct. Wow, good call on that.
Great times.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
They've moved on. They moved to a bigger spot. They're still doing well, which is good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for
but
them.
Man, those Monday nights when they started that, I can't even. When did they start that?
It was our. I believe it was our senior year.
Yeah, it had to have been if we were all going, because I was the youngster who didn't turn 21 till the start of senior year.
So then, it was senior year, because I don't think we did it junior.
Oh my gosh! Remember when they eventually stopped giving us cups and they were just like, guys, you need to just take this and go away. Like, take this picture. We're gonna charge you $3. Go away. Because we would just be constantly going back up to the counter.
Yeah. Good thing we could walk.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, very safe.
We were very safe.
And it was a downhill walk, so eventually we were getting home no matter what.
Uphill there, downhill back.
Perfect situation.
Really worked out. We probably did pregame it.
Oh, of course we did. Of course we did.
Pregame the $3 pitchers.
Of course we did.
Good for us. Good for us. All right, man. We got some football to talk about. For those of you joining us for the first time, thanks for coming on and listening to us. We are going to be focused only on the Birds tonight. So if you were popping in to hear some Sixers talk, some Phillies talk, here's what you got. Sixers are playing really well right now, going for 4 in a row in the West Coast. And the Phillies, we love them. We love Dave. We love what they've done. Unbelievable offseason so far. Bryce is actually doing some things, light exercise. Awesome. That's our Phillies talk for the night, Rex. And our Sixers talk.
All positive. All positive.
The Birds are in the playoffs. After a pretty boring wild card weekend, aside from like a game or two.
Yeah.
We get the Birds this weekend. So we're going to quickly just react a little bit to the weekend. We were... Ooh. Okay, we ran the gauntlet in the AFC.
Yep,
we were 3 for 3 in the AFC, and 1 and 2 in the NFC. Although listening back to the show, I did want the Giants. Just saying,
you did.
I did.
We can't root for other NFC East teams. It just it's not in our nature.
So. I don't know that there's much to react to in the AFC. It was pretty chalky, with the exception of what a tremendous job by Doug Peterson and Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
What an amazing comeback. Unbelievable.
I'm not sure how that stuff happens.
Yeah.
It's either when it's this bad, it's like when the Patriots came back against the Falcons in that Super Bowl. On one hand, you want to praise the team that came back because it obviously takes a large amount of perseverance and mental toughness to be able to do something like that. But then it's almost just as equally the team who lost it to blame. Like, how many things do you have to do wrong for this kind of stuff to happen? And somehow, like, the Chargers leadership has come out and said, we've never had more faith in their coach. Like, excuse me?
Mm-hmm.
That can't that's pondering at this point. Like, no rational human being could say something like that. After a team that's as talented as the Chargers, first of all, you played your guys in a meaningless Week 18 game.
Yep.
Got your arguably best wide receiver, got a bone broken in his back, so he couldn't play in the playoffs. You have one of the most talented quarterbacks in the entire league, just from a talent standpoint. It's a guy who can do everything.
Yep.
And you have a defense that, again, has been working, like has a lot of injuries, but is full of talent from them being really bad for a long time.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just a disaster. How can you come out and say that we have full confidence in this coach? Like, come on. Like, don't be so transparently lying that, like, you can try and make it be like, oh, you know, obviously we are looking into everything. You know, we still think Coach whatever Staley has a chance to, you know, get this team right, but we're looking into all options or something. Like, full confidence, please. Please.
Yeah, I definitely. It's a baffling statement after you blow a 4 touchdown lead in a half and you know, questionable decision making up to that point. But good for Dougie P.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
And then you have to look around and look at those other 2 games in the AFC and just realize, like, although they were entire mismatches in terms of at least quarterback versus quarterback, this is what happens in divisional games.
Yeah.
And they were both divisional rivals playing, and that's what worries me a little bit about this weekend with the Eagles. But, you know, Buffalo and Cincy were both the better teams, and in the end they won, which I believe is still the case for Philly. But they are the better team, but we'll have to wait and see. Back in the NFC, Regs, the Seattle San Francisco game was, you know, leading off the weekend, and we were all pretty excited. And then all of a sudden the fourth quarter hit, and San Francisco remembered how good they are.
Yeah. It
whoa.
Listen, Purdy didn't come out great, but I don't think he came out bad. Like, Lawrence came out terrible. Lawrence came out and showed that he's never played in a playoff game before. Purdy didn't do that, but he eventually sort of got his feet underneath him a little bit more. And again, that team is very, very good. They really shouldn't have a problem with Seattle. And I think, like you said, it sort of clicked in all their heads. They're like, okay.
And again, division rival.
Yeah. So it eventually turned into the game we thought it would be.
Yeah. And then the Giants-Minnesota game was actually like a really decent game to watch.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
It wasn't boring. It was a little frustrating at times because, again, like, we're watching Minnesota just allow whatever they like. The pass game, like, they're 31st ranked pass defense in the league.
Yeah.
Like, Daniel Jones is serviceable. And Daniel Jones should not torch you.
They don't have a good they don't have a good wide receiver core either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, their best wide receiver got hurt earlier in the year. I think I saw some stat that I think Justin Jefferson was targeted 2 times in the entire second half.
Yeah.
Like, how can that be possible?
Well, and I think the same thing could be said on that side of the conversation. I think the Giants were so much about bracketing Jefferson and forcing Thielen or Rager to beat them.
And they just couldn't.
And he couldn't.
Yeah.
You know, they did use Hawkinson a little bit. The Giants are not good against the tight end. We'll get to that later.
Mm-hmm.
But Jefferson just wasn't, like, every replay they showed from behind the line of scrimmage, Jefferson had a guy trailing and a guy over top of him.
Yeah.
And they were going to make somebody else beat them. The good news for the Eagles is that the Eagles have 4 dudes that can beat you. They can all win one-on-ones. So you're really hurting yourself by, you know, bracketing on AJ Brown. Like, you can try it.
Yeah, right.
But if you're devoting 2 guys to AJ Brown, they're going to kill you in the run game, or Devontae Smith's going to win every one-on-one matchup.
Or just Dallas Goedert is going to be wide open on every single play.
Yeah, so it doesn't work that way for, again, like, when you have to play the Eagles. And then, man, Monday night was supposed to be the game of the weekend, and it was we were texting. I was actually, before we started, rereading a couple of our messages, and my goodness, we were like, well, maybe, like, they got to do it here, and then Brady would it would be 3 and out. And
I even looked on the other side. That defense just looked like they didn't know a football game was happening. Honestly, they just looked like they were just, like, looking around. And just receivers and everyone was open. No one, I think, made a contested catch all night, except that one where the dude dove at it and it went through his hands and Dallas still caught it for a touchdown. Like, that was the closest a Tampa Bay defensive player got to touching a football.
Right. I think, Regz, I look at that game, and I've not watched, admittedly, a lot of Tampa this year. That's a bad team.
Yeah, it's not good.
And I understand that the NFL wanted to add teams to the playoffs, whatever. And Tampa gets in even if they hadn't done what they had done because they won their division at 8-9, which to me is again, a conversation I think the NFL should have. I know that they're saying that you say there should be a reward for winning your division. Well, that's just getting in the playoffs. If you win your division at 8-9, you should not get a home game.
You should not get. Yeah, right.
That was so pathetic. That's a bad football team.
It was really bad. Really bad
football team.
Yeah.
And again, Dallas is a good team. I don't want to take away from the Cowboys.
All of a sudden, everyone gets all hyped up because they throw a bunch of points up on a terrible. That team is bad.
Yeah, and again, some of the stuff that was happening to Brady could have been the defense, but the fact that they can't run the football,
it
doesn't help.
Right. Those guys just get the pin their ears back and go do whatever they want. And that's
not going to happen this week because Christian McCaffrey is really talented, and that offensive line is very good.
Yeah. And Debo lining up in the backfield, they throw a whole bunch of different things at you.
And George Kittle.
Yep.
Again, the Cowboy secondary is not great.
Yeah.
And can be exposed, especially if there's a team with a run game. And I think about, they had Xavier Rhodes on the field for a little bit, Dallas. Xavier Rhodes can't cover Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
He can't cover Debo Samuel.
Yeah.
Those safeties aren't going to cover George Kittle.
Yeah. And San Francisco is going to be a completely different environment than Tampa Bay.
And the defense in San Francisco.
Yeah. It's just a completely different monster that they're playing this week.
I do believe that game, and we can play around with some fun predictions later. I know that our overall predictions are kind of shot, but we can have some fun with our actual predictions for the weekend. And I don't know that one's. I think that might be the game. I think that could potentially be the most boring game of the weekend.
If San Francisco gets off to a good start, Dallas could get very discouraged very quickly.
I think if Tampa would have scored in one of their first two possessions, tail would have gone between the legs immediately.
Yeah. And it just didn't. It just didn't happen. But it's going to happen this week. And I think the second part about that is that Dallas does have one of the best traveling fan bases, maybe in all of football. And it makes itself apparent in a place like Tampa. It's not going to be that apparent in a place like San Francisco.
Yeah, I think because this is a classic rivalry.
From way back in the 80s, early 90s.
I don't see San Francisco fans letting Dallas overtake their stadium.
That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Yep.
And the way that Giant fans are saying they're going to overtake the Link on Saturday. Good luck.
Please.
And you know what? Maybe go to the museum steps and do some sort of dumb chant before the game.
It's worked out well.
Because it worked out for the last team.
San Diego sung a song, right? That worked out well for them. Do whatever you want. Go for
Minnesota did that weird clap thing they do.
Go nuts. Go nuts.
You know what? We invite it.
Please.
We invite it.
Please.
Which is the perfect transition to the meat of our show tonight, Regz. We asked the listeners for their questions about this weekend's matchup between the Giants and your Philadelphia Eagles. So we appreciate.
If you want to get in on that, Phixated fan page on Facebook.
Yeah, Phixated fan page on Facebook. We're going to just run down the list of questions. We thank our listeners who jumped on to throw a question up there. And we're just going to start with Curtis. Curtis Banks, who is actually a Chiefs fan, but interested in the Birds has connection to a lot of Philly fans, including myself. And he asked, does Danny Dimes play lights out again and outplay Jalen hurts. So, Regs, we'll start with you on this one, and I'll jump in when you're done.
So it's a two-part question. Does Danny Dimes play lights out?
So is he going to play lights out? And basically, is he going to outplay Jalen, I think? Because if he plays lights out, that conversation probably goes hand in hand.
The answer is no. Quite simply. The Vikings defense doesn't really hold a candle to this Eagles defense. Look at me. I'm being complimentary of the defense, Azzy. Can we mark this down?
I'm actually
21 minutes into the podcast. I'm
actually wondering how I do this.
So the answer is no. The Vikings got zero pressure. I think Danny's going to feel confident about running, but I'm hoping that our D-tackle pressure can prevent him from doing that. If we can push the pocket from the front, it's going to stop a lot of that stuff. And again, they don't have a tight end who's going to kill you. Like, there's really no reason to not be able to maybe leave one of the linebackers in just at the beginning of the game. Because I think he's going to try and do this. He's going to try and run to try and establish that early. And I think if we can squash that in the first quarter and show him, like, this is not an option for you, pal, then that D-line pressure is just going to be ramped. It's just going to ramp up and ramp up and ramp up as time goes on. Like, look, I didn't know when I wanted to bring this up, but like, we beat this team 44-20 something in their home stadium when everyone was healthy. You know what I mean? Like, when both teams were healthy-ish.
The Giants were a little beat up when we played. They didn't have like Dexter Lawrence, which I think is going to be a major.
Yeah, maybe from an offensive standpoint. Saquon still played. Like, I know he's coming off the neck thing, but he still played.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know. I think it's a huge key to not allow him to to start running the ball. I don't think you let him get out of the pocket. If you contain him for the first quarter and show that his legs are not going to be a part of this, then I think the D-line just eats at that point.
Yeah. Well, that's what happened in New York, right?
Yeah.
When they played him at the Meadowlands, it was a lot of the Eagles got up 21-0, so he couldn't run. He had to throw.
Right.
And at that point, it was, pretty much a wash. So I think if the Eagles do what they're capable of doing defensively and eliminate, like you said, his ability to run, then he's going to be forced to throw the ball, and the defensive line is going to get pressure. But I think, one of the reasons why he was so effective against Minnesota is, let's call a spade a spade. They're a terrible pass defense.
Yeah.
Terrible. And I know we get frustrated with our defense, but watching the Vikings trying to defend the pass was just exhausting.
Yeah.
Like, their safeties might be 15 yards deeper than what we play our safeties.
Yeah. Which is shocking.
It is truly unbelievable. I will tell you that I worry a little bit about Isaiah Hodgins, who played really well in the Minnesota game. I think he's the type of receiver who could just kill us, because that's what happens. But I agree, Regs. I don't think Daniel Jones has the same type of game. I think, if anything, he could potentially, he's going to hurt us more on the ground than he does through the air. I think if he does beat us, it will be on the ground. That being said, the Eagles can devote a linebacker to spy him.
Yes.
He's also susceptible to mistakes, and we know that we've got a guy in the secondary who takes a lot of advantage of that. And one last thing I just want to say, he will throw a pick to James Bradbury this week. James Bradbury, revenge game.
That's what I'm like. Again, he played fantastic the last time we played him at New York. He was like one of the few bright spots in that game that we played at home. He played another very good game.
Right.
And to your point, if one of the receivers starts going crazy, I think they, like, again, with CGJ being back, his ability to play the slot, like, they'll be able to put someone on one of those guys. They don't have a ton of weapons. It's just, they don't have it.
Right.
So if you, it's like you just have to stop the weird stuff. You have to stop Daniel Jones being able to run for 20 yards
and eliminate Saquon.
And Saquon, yes, of course. He is always the scariest guy on the field when we play the Giants, especially because we're not a great tackling team, and that guy can eat you alive if you're going to start missing tackles.
Yeah, he can make you miss a ton of tackles.
Yeah, and I'm like, he's literally the one I'm scared of the absolute most at all times.
That's understandable.
Daniel Jones is not that like the guy I'm most afraid of.
Yeah, that is entirely understandable. Okay. Let's go to the next question, and I'll take this one first.
You're up first. Yep.
Which is from Dylan. And Dylan's question was, is Jalen's injury worse than being shown or talked about? This is a hard question to answer because obviously we don't have the same type of intel as, your usual suspects do. Listening to the stuff I've listened to, right. It's coming. Listening to the stuff that we've listened to and watching the stuff that I've watched and reading the stuff that I read. I don't think he's 100%.
No.
And that AC joint sprain that thing is a pain. It's going to be a pain. It's not something that he should need surgery for at any point, but Jalen knows what's coming. Like, he knows that he is priority number one on that for that defense. He's a dead man running every time he holds onto the ball. But there's probably some gamesmanship in this, right? Like, there's probably some gamesmanship in a little bit of everything. When they're not answering if he's 100%, there's gamesmanship in that. They don't want the Giants to believe that he's 100% healthy, right? They also don't want the Giants to believe that he isn't. Like, they want the Giants wondering all week what Jalen Hurts they're going to get. Are they going to get Jalen Hurts from the week that they got their doors blown off? Or are they going to get Jalen Hurts from the week where they hung in with their second string? And, the Eagles, I think, would be dumb to say either way where he's at, especially if he's leaning more toward the injured side. So Dylan, it's a good question, but I think if I'm answering the question, he's not 100%, but I think he's closer to 100% than he is to like 80%. So, and they can win with Jalen Hurts at 90-95%. They can beat anybody with Jalen Hurts at 90-95% the way he played this year. As long as he's smart and protected, they can win with him close to 100%.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely true. I don't think it's worse than what they've been putting off.
Right.
I think they've been absolutely as safe as possible with Jalen Hurts for this run. There was no reason to push him to come back against the Saints. He came back against the Giants out of pure necessity because Gardner Minshew was so bad.
Right.
It's like you've said before, he was in there looking to not get touched one bit. And that was the game plan. Don't let anyone touch that shoulder.
Yeah. No one can get near him.
Yep. And then you've had an extra week to rest, which is why winning that last game was so important.
Yeah.
For so many reasons, but one of them, of course, being at the top of the list, Jalen.
Right.
I don't think he's 100%, like you said. I completely agree with you. And he's even said it himself. And it's been reported several times that he's not going into this week at 100%. But I don't think he's going to hold back on anything. We might see him slide more often in those 50-50 situations, which I completely agree with because there's still
could also draw flags.
There's still some playoffs left. Like, yes, you need to win this game, obviously, but there's no reason to get yourself hurt for the next couple weeks. So I think we're going to see a couple more slides than usual.
Yeah.
All I'm hoping is that it doesn't cause him to roll out of the pocket sooner than normal.
Right.
He's been so good this year at staying in the pocket and making those throws. I just really hope it doesn't cause him to bail out because that's when Jalen is not good. Is when he's not getting through his reads and he's just bailing out. That's what we saw 2 years ago. And it wasn't good. This year, it's been a complete change. So I just hope that he has the confidence to stay in the pocket and make the throws he needs to make.
And I think that's very fair. And we'll know how he's feeling. We'll know.
Yeah.
We'll see it. We'll see it. But
I mean, the dude's
I
not going to come out and give you anything less than what he's got.
Yeah, he's going to give you 100% of whatever is there.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. The effort will be there. That's a great thought. Roger, this is a really good question.
Roger.
Matchup between the Eagles' young coaching staff versus the experience of the Giants staff. Who wins the scheme game? Now, here's where I think Roger's going with that. All of these guys have been coaching in the NFL for a while, right?
Yes.
But like Sirianni and his crew don't have a ton of playoff experience, right? And I think that's where he's getting at, because when you think about Brian Daboll, he has coached in the playoffs multiple times in Buffalo. Maybe not from the head coaching perspective, but he's coached and had to make game plans, adjust game plans, do those things. Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator, has been around a really long time, and he's one of the best in the league. So the question's fair, Regz. Who wins the scheme game?
It's a tough question because it's one of the places I feel like the Eagles coaches get in their own heads. I feel like
outsmart the room.
I feel like they have a plan of like the first couple drives and they don't deviate whatsoever, regardless of what they might see. So here's what I'll say. I have confidence in the fact that they've seen this team. This will be the third time. And even last year, the team's not a bunch different than it even was last year. Obviously, new coach and things like that. But I have confidence in the weeks off. And especially since that Saints game where they kind of got exposed as to not being ready to game plan against that team. That I'm hopeful that this extra week and all that has allowed them to come up with a game plan that suits the Giants well. I'm not confident that they might adjust that. I think the Giants coaches are much more willing to adjust instantly, like on the drop of a dime, to what they see. And maybe that is that experience. They're willing to just say, I don't have an ego, scrap what we said. Like, let's do this now. But I'm hopeful that this extra week and all the planning, like this Eagles coaching staff has shown the ability to be able to plan. They haven't shown a great ability to pivot quickly, but I'm hopeful that everything they've learned this season, like this is the playoffs, like you have to throw your ego out the window and just do whatever is best for the team.
Right. Before I jump into this, one thing that we've talked a lot about on the show that was like kind of shook me on Monday night. I was flipping when the game got boring. I flipped on the Manning cast. We talked so much about halftime adjustments, and Peyton Manning goes, "There's no bigger myth in the NFL than halftime adjustments. Like it's basically you go in, you get water, you get some training stuff done, you get some oranges, and then the coach is like, all right, let's go." What?
Yep. Isn't that hilarious?
It's wild to me.
That's so great. But that's why you put that guy on TV, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just never something I would have known.
Yeah.
Regz, this, I think. All right. So Brian Daboll, Mike McCarthy, like Doug Peterson, Andy Reid. Like when I look at what's left, Shanahan. Like when I look at what's left in the playoffs, it's really hard to know or to feel like Nick Sirianni stands up with some of these dudes.
Yeah.
And his staff. And I don't mean that Nick's not a good coach.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. I think Nick's a great coach. I do. And I read an article tonight, Darius Slay put out an article on the Players Tribune about like Philly and just like coming here. And he talks about Nick Sirianni and just how Nick is so like this is a family. We are family driven and we're going to enjoy being around one another. And that's great. And I think that's a great way to lead. That's the way that's the way I do it. But like when it comes to the pure scheme of things and I look around the league and what's left, I do think that the Eagles, while they might be one of the more talented rosters, might fall short because of the scheming and the coaching. I don't know. I don't know. I just, as I thought about this question, I do think it's a very viable chance that they get out schemed.
Yeah, I mean, this coaching staff is very talented but unexperienced.
At least in the postseason.
Yes.
Like, they are not an experienced postseason staff.
No.
They've played one postseason game. They're 0-1. It was an ugly 0-1.
Yeah.
So it Regz, in a way, it reminds me a little bit of the Phillies from the perspective of they've got to win to get over the hump.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they, as a coaching staff, as a team, because what do we have left from the Super Bowl team? Scraps.
Yeah.
Scraps isn't a fair statement.
No.
Scraps isn't a fair statement. Very important scraps.
Yeah.
Like Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham. Like there are guys still here, but a bulk of this roster hasn't done this before.
Yeah.
Like even the most important parts of the roster, like some of the guys who have showed out all year long have not been to this point. The Slays never had a bye.
Yeah.
Never won a division. Like James Bradbury, same thing. Like, yeah, of course Fletcher Cox has, and of course, Brandon Graham has. They've been here. Ndamukong Suh has been through it. Like some of these dudes have been there. They've done that. And the coaching staff goes right along with that. So there's a very good chance that they get out schemed. At the end of the day, though, they're still a more talented roster.
Yeah.
And, as long as they're willing to do the things that they've done all year, and I think the extra week will help. One concern that I do have is if they do win, and this is looking ahead, and we shouldn't do that, that Shanahan will out scheme them.
Well, yeah.
He'll run circles around him, but he out schemes everybody. So that's neither here nor there. You almost rather face a guy like McCarthy, who I don't think is a better. I don't think he's a better head coach than Sirianni.
No.
So, again, Regz, like this is a really good question from Roger. I think the experience is a concern.
Yeah.
You're dealing with two really experienced coordinators, at least postseason experience. They've seen it all. There's nothing they have not seen from that lens. So, but there's plenty that Sirianni hasn't seen, and there's plenty that Gannon hasn't seen. And these two, while we had the extra week, these two probably didn't need an extra week to say, here's what they've done to us. Here's what we're going to do to counter that.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
the experience part is a real concern.
Yeah, it's fair.
It's a real concern. It's a great question. So if you're asking us who wins this scheme game, I think I think just off of what we know about if we're basing it on experience, I feel like saying the Giants is not unfair. But if we're looking at it from a length of time and, knowing what the Eagles can beat you so many ways.
Yeah.
The Giants can't. So truly, when it comes down to that, I think the Eagles have the advantage of being able to scheme for the Giants. If they play the Niners, we're having a very different conversation because the Niners can beat you in a variety of ways.
Yes.
The Giants cannot. If they are not able to run the football, they're not going to beat at least this Eagles team. We can talk about what happened with the Vikings last week. It's because the Vikings pass defense is terrible.
Yeah.
The Eagles pass defense is not.
Yeah.
So from that lens, I do think the Eagles hold an advantage.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Wyatt, next question. Thanks for the question, Roger. And Wyatt, thanks for your question. Couple of things here. I think this one comes back to me to start. How do you handle, or what do you expect in regards to Jalen's situation with his shoulder not being 100%? You reinsert the RPO stuff and let him make those decisions and potentially take some hits, work to protect him better and limit those. I hope they let him cook, but also within reason, if that's a possible solution, go Birds. I think, this kind of goes back to what we were saying from Dylan's question, which is it's hard to know without knowing where Jalen is.
Yeah.
I think, Wyatt, that the answer is you let Jalen dictate what he can and cannot do. If Jalen feels like he can run RPO, let him run RPO. Just his ability to run the football, even if he does it once, twice, 3 times maximum, and gets a 5-yard chunk, slides, goes out of bounds, or breaks off a 40-yard gainer and runs out of bounds, which we've seen him do numerous times. Yep. If he does that one time, then it's in the back of their head the rest of the game. If he scrambles for 30 yards and gets out of bounds, it's in their head the rest of the game. It takes one run, and that changes everything. Mm-hmm. So if he has one run in him, or 2 runs in him, or even multiple runs in him, you let him do it. Here's one thing I'll say that I didn't mention in the injury thing that we talked about, Dylan, before I turn it over to you, that I think we haven't talked enough about this. In week 18, they did ask him to sneak.
Yes.
If his shoulder's in that bad of shape, why is he doing that?
Well, yeah, he shouldn't is the quick answer.
Which just makes me think, is it that bad, Regz? Or were and we're gonna get to this in a little bit, were they just trying to protect what they needed to do to get in the game?
I certainly think that they were making sure it didn't get worse. Like, right. Why put him in situations that he's gonna take some big hits?
Right.
If you're gonna ask me honestly, I don't think there's any restrictions to the playbook this week. I don't think they're not gonna call something because of Jalen's shoulder. Would be my guess. And it's very much like you said. You need to not go as far as Chicago. That was ridiculous. They were essentially using him as Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that. That can't be a thing again.
Yeah.
But you need to have that threat of it. And it needs that, exactly what you said. It needs to happen a few times so that the defense is always like, they have to hesitate a little bit. And that just causes AJ to be more open. Devontae to be more open, Dallas Goedert to be more open when he sucks those linebackers up.
Right.
It has to be a thing because it's when that is a threat. This is when the Eagles are at their optimal.
Mm-hmm.
So it just has to be. You can't not pull out the stops. It's the playoffs. You need to win.
Yeah.
You can't go into this being like, oh, well, we're not going to call a couple things. You just can't do it. So I think we'll see him. I think we'll see him do it. I think we'll see him catch a couple runs here and there, but I think we'll see him slide 2 yards sooner maybe than we usually do. And I think we'll see him go out of bounds 2 yards faster than you might have previously.
I think, the question, and then we'll move on to Brian's question. The question that Wyatt added at the end there, do you work to protect him better? I think with Lane being back, you don't have to have too much of a concern unless he's not able to do what he normally does.
Right.
Because you have your full offensive line, full health. And I believe that with Lane, even at, I truly believe Lane at 80% is better than like 75% of the NFL's tackles.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
So, you don't have to do too much to max protect him. Like you don't need to use Goddard in those situations.
No, I don't think so either.
So, I think you just let Jalen do what he does. If it were a leg thing, I'd say, but Jalen can avoid hits.
Right.
Like he's able to do it. He might get a cheapie. Like someone might try and get a cheapie.
They're going to be trying.
And sacrifice a 15-yarder to see if he gets shook by it. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you this, Jalen Hurts doesn't get shook.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not super concerned about that. If it were legs, I'd be far more concerned, but I anticipate him I think they unload the bag.
Oh yeah.
All right, Brian's question. Hey guys, is there a particular player you'd most like to see involved early on offense? Miles in the run game, Goddard. What say you, Regz?
It's the first one, Miles in the run game. I think it's such a different team when they get to establish that. And I think they've gone away from it. And I don't know if that was because of Miles' knee thing. I don't know why. I don't know why it happened. But it's a very different team when they can't establish that. You need that dual threat of Miles and Jalen. It can't just be one or the other. Because it sets so much up for the passing game. Like, it sets so much up. And they're not even a team that runs a ton of... Like, I know the RPO in itself is sort of a play-action play. But when... Like, Miles has been so good. And this offensive line has been so good. These past couple weeks, he's just hasn't been a thing. Miles has just not been the same guy. And regardless if that was because his knee was maybe hurting him a little bit, obviously Lane was out. The offensive line is a little bit different. You need to get back to that, but I just want to see them be balanced.
Yeah.
But for right now, based on the last couple of weeks, that means we need to establish Miles Sanders in the beginning of this game. And just, if we can come out and pound it down their throats and just sustain a long drive, like, these Giants are running on pure confidence.
Yeah.
If you can come out and just show them, like, yeah, we'll take 9 minutes and we'll run it 12 times, right? And we'll get 5 or 6 yards a carry.
Yeah.
And then Jalen maybe hits a 10-yarder, right? And then AJ's open on a slant for 12. Like, you're just going to suck all the air out of that team. Like, that's what you have to do. You have to come out and suck the confidence out of this Giants team. That's all they're running on at this point.
Yeah.
It's blind confidence.
Yeah.
So,
I think if the Eagles find themselves with a 2-score lead early, they'll pack it in.
Oh, yeah. You need a score and a stop. If you start the game with a score and a stop, or a stop and a score, because the Eagles generally defer, like, just hand the Eagles the game. That's like just what needs to happen.
Yeah. So interestingly, we both went with guys he mentioned, because you talked about I really want this to be a Dallas Goedert game. I feel like I say it every week.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm always saying it, but I feel like Dallas Goedert, and the hard part is that Jalen does distribute. Like, he tends to find guys. I don't know what they're going to do defensively, because they just don't have the manpower to cover everything the Eagles can put out there. But when I see that Hawkinson has gone for 10 for 129 against them and 13 for 109 against them, like, I really want the big man to eat this game. I really do. Like, I want him. And again, it's very rare, aside from Devontae Smith, who tends to find himself with double-digit catches like week in and week out, that we have a guy eating double digits. But I would really love to see Jalen get Dallas going a little bit early. I think he's too physical for them. Julian Love plays safety for them. Julian Love was a corner in college. He's not your typical safety. They put 6 defensive backs on the field constantly. So for them to run the ball would make a ton of sense, Rags. But a defensive back trying to cover Dallas Goedert is an absolute joke.
Yeah.
So you can get a lot of matchup favored matchups there with Goedert against a defensive back. In the same breath, if they're bringing out six defensive backs, trying to handle the run game is also not going to be fun for them. So I'm going with Goedert just, because.
No, I think they're both equally as important.
But I could also see a Devontae game.
Listen, I just think the first two
Boston
guys.
Scott. I don't know.
The first two guys we've talked about, though, Sanders and Goddard, make everything else more open. Like, that's what we're trying to do. You need to establish the things that are going to make the defense think about other things. And then, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are still out there that we have to try and guard. If you start with some big chunk plays like from Miles and Goddard, that defense isn't going to know what the hell to do. Because then it's like, well, we can't move a guy because then AJ or Devontae is one-on-one, and that's a nightmare. Like that's what you have to make this team do. Right. You have to make the Giants as uncomfortable as possible, and establishing Miles and Goddard at the beginning makes them uncomfortable the entire rest of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really excited to see what they come out with offensively. Like I can't wait. There's gonna be so much energy in that stadium.
It's gonna be nuts.
All right, last question from the listeners, and then we'll go into our own predictions here. Did Sirianni really go bare bones with game plan, play calling, and not show full stuff, anticipating Eagles could very well face the Giants in the playoffs? Could that explain how they damn near lost that game?
Brian, is you, buddy.
This is a good, this is me. This is a good question. I've been saying it from the start. The red zone offense was not their typical red zone offense. They did not run RPO in the red zone at all in that game. They did not even try. Jalen's legs in the red zone are such a threat. Such a threat. I felt like the pass game was vanilla. I felt like everything was vanilla. Now, was that because of potential Giant matchup? Maybe. Was it a potential we don't want Jalen to get hurt situation? Maybe. There's a lot of different reasons. Was it because we don't have Lane Johnson and we have to get the ball out quickly? And we have to do things differently than we normally do? Maybe. All of that stuff is possible. I will tell you, again, watching it back, listening to things, there's no way that's the offense we've watched all year.
Yeah.
Especially when they got inside the 20-yard line. They knew that they would do enough to win with 5 field goals and 1 score. That's all they needed to do. They needed to get points on pretty much every possession, field goal with 1 touchdown. And they knew 20 points was the winnable number.
Yeah.
With what the Giants were playing. They knew that they could do what they needed to do enough to win the football game. So to answer the question, it was vanilla, very vanilla. The reason could be a variety of things that I just listed, or those things combine.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I sit.
No, I'm completely with you. I don't really have much else to add to it. I agree with you. I think when you go back and look at it, it's pretty obvious it was not the same offense that they've been running most of the season. Even with Minshew in, like regardless of who the quarterback was. So I'm with you. That is not the same thing we're going to see this week.
No. There'll definitely be something else there.
Yeah.
Thanks again, guys, for all the
appreciate it.
That was awesome. We to come around that quickly to it. We really appreciate that.
Great questions.
All right, Regz, let's do a quick around the league prediction thing. And then we'll land on the Eagles last. Eagles Giants last with keys. So we'll start with the early Saturday game, which is Jacksonville and the Chiefs in Kansas City. The Chiefs are 9-point favorites. Andy Reid versus Dougie P, baby, which is really cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Both former coaches of the Eagles. Like, that's wild to me. Yeah. So hit me with your thoughts. We'll start with you this time.
I mean, I think Big Red has this one pretty going away.
I think that go ahead.
I don't know if, like, we've saw it, Jacksonville's defense isn't great. Like, they were down 27-0. And I really do think that the Chargers play calling just got so bad. That doesn't happen with the Chiefs. I think they'll have the ability to put up a bunch of points. I'm not saying that Jacksonville won't, because I don't think the Chiefs defense is very good. So I'm not saying it might not be like 40-20 something. I don't know if I just don't think Jacksonville's going to win the game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think Andy gets the best of them, but I actually think it's going to be close.
Okay.
Those guys just play for Doug, man. And there's another level of meaning to this. It's Doug's former, used to coach there, and so I think it's close. But I got Casey as well. Let's do Cincy Buffalo, the rematch of the game that was quite a thing.
Yeah. Somehow has worked out as positive as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would assume that we're going to see that young man show up at Highmark on Saturday.
Pretty cool.
Or on Sunday. The Bills are 5.5-point favorites.
Yeah, this one's
now both teams did not have a great showing.
Yep.
This past weekend. Regz, I think there's going to be a lot of emotion in Buffalo. They're 5.5-point favorites. Joe Burrow. Bengals by a touchdown.
Can I put
Josh Allen's going to throw a pick late. He's been so erratic lately.
He has been. Can I put a caveat? If they run the first kickoff back, they're going to win the game. I was with you, man. I was kind of leaning Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Buffalo is not to have that kind of game against Miami at home against a second string quarterback that no one's ever heard of. Right. Like, this Buffalo defense is not very good. And this offense hasn't been as dominant in the past several weeks. I think Cincinnati has a real shot to go in and steal one.
Yeah, I really believe it. Dallas and San Francisco on Sunday night in San Francisco. This is you.
San Francisco walking away.
I actually really think this isn't going to be close, Rags.
Dallas hasn't really seen a defense like this, maybe outside of ours, this whole season.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about how good San Francisco is playing, but they're playing really, really well. They scare the crap out of me as a football team.
Yeah.
And I have no reason to believe that Dallas is going to go into San Francisco and do much. Like, their ability to pass rush. And just from an offensive standpoint, even if it is a shootout, San Francisco can hang. And Dallas's secondary is not very good.
No.
So I think this is San Francisco by quite a bit.
Yeah, I think double digits.
Yeah. I'd say 12 to 14, I'd say.
I think double digits. I don't think the Pumpkins turn in yet. Like, I think Cinderella's still got one more day to the ball, and
I think especially at home. Like, this Purdy needs to be at home. I think if he has to come into Philly to play the NFC Championship game, there's a difference. That won't take away from all those other guys who are very good and very experienced.
Right.
But I just think it's very different for that guy at home. It's just a different level of confidence.
I just want to throw one more thing out there that I don't think people are talking enough about in regard to the 49ers offense. And I'm just trying to pull it up real quickly. Because I think it is something to focus on, and I'm trying to find where it is. Okay. So I think one of the conversations that we continue to hear throughout the playoffs, and it's fair. I don't want to act like, this isn't a fair conversation to have, is just about the Micah Parsons show. And I know I kind of rambled there for a little bit. I was trying to find what I was looking for in terms of, what the Niners boast on the offensive line. Cause I think it's important to sort of talk about what his matchup's going to be. The Tampa Bay game, like, I just don't feel like anybody could block that man.
Yeah.
So, he was really having his way. I don't know what they're going to do in this game, Regs, because you've got future Hall of Famer Trent Williams on the left side, and you got freaking Mike McGlinchey on the right side. Like, they're two of the best tackles in the game.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a great offensive line.
It's a great defensive line.
Like, yeah.
That's your game changer.
And I don't think, like, Jason Peters went out of the last Dallas game with a hip injury.
Yeah, good luck with Bosa.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They
actually might be better off because there's no way Jason Peters is
no.
is blocking Nick Bosa.
No. I just think San Francisco is very, very good.
I
think Dallas is good, but they are not at the same level.
No, I 100% agree with you. All right, man, that brings us to the game of the week for us Saturday night. Couldn't have been more perfectly placed.
Yeah.
Saturday night, 8:15.
Boy, this crowd's going to be drunk.
Oh,
good Lord.
God, yeah. Yeah. Good job, NFL.
Good Lord.
Real smart. 8:15. Birds are 7.5 point favorites. It went back up from 7. 48 point total.
Okay.
Is this me? Do I go first? I feel like here's the thing, Regz. All season, you've gone first.
I have. Do we keep the superstition?
I don't think we can change that. They are 14-1 when all the boxes are checked.
Okay, that's fine. We can do that.
Okay.
So, keys to the game first, right?
Mm-hmm.
My key to the game is, I'm going to say it again, is Miles Sanders. I think that if we can come out and establish the run against this defense is not good. This Giants defense is not very good. And if our offensive line is back to its typical self, I just think that if we can establish the run early, it opens everything else up. Literally everything. And that's where, like you said, Dallas gets more involved. It makes AJ and Devontae even more open.
Right.
All the things that we think will happen. So from that standpoint, I'm going to go 31-17. I'm going to be a push. It's going to be right on the number.
Okay. It's actually really funny.
Yeah. I think Giants are going to score a touchdown here or there. They'll get a field goal. It's going to happen. But I just don't think they're going to be very close.
So, I've got take away the run.
No, that's great. Yeah.
I think if they take away the run, the Giants are going to be at a loss. The Giants are going to want to do what teams that beat us did.
Yep.
Which is run the air out of the football. Don't give us possessions. They're gonna, if they win the toss, they're gonna want the ball.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna want to take 8 minutes off the clock and eliminate the entire quarter.
Mm-hmm.
If the Eagles are up to the challenge and force them into a quick 3 and out, or maybe they get one first down and they have to punt, then that's gonna get them thinking a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I just want to touch on, it's not a key, but I think it's important to mention. When we played them, when we blew them out, they did not have Dexter Lawrence. Dude's a freak. He's a monster. And I think it's important to mention his value to this football game because he'll be lined up over top of Jason Kelce. And I think that's something that, he's much bigger. Most of what Kelce does is around his ability to be smarter, be quicker. And I think that could end up being a little bit of a challenge for him. So that matchup will be one to watch. I think he wins it ultimately. I think he's just quicker, but you almost wonder, are we going to have some poor snaps this week? Or, those sorts of things play into having an elite player across from you. Especially if they send extra from time to time. And man, I really want somebody to taunt Thibodeau in the worst way. If we're blowing him out and we get in the end zone, I want someone doing I want someone doing snow angels.
Yeah.
Because that dude is in poor taste.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. So I got my final score 31-21.
Nice.
And I actually think it's going to be one of those situations where we're up by 14 with the start of the fourth quarter. They drive the length and run some clock and there's 9 minutes left, we run the air out of the ball, kick a field goal, and or score a touchdown and, you know, put it away to win it. So we both got him winning, buddy.
Yeah.
So
you shouldn't lose to this team.
No. I saw
simple.
somebody post something, and we don't have to talk about this. I just thought it was interesting. Like, similar to what you just said, but followed by, if they lose this game, Sirianni's job should be on the line. They said, if you'll fire a Super Bowl winning head coach, then losing this game out of a bye at home should be just as unacceptable.
I mean, it's not acceptable. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But I almost think that, again, I don't even want to put this into the juju.
Yeah.
I almost think that even if that happened, can you think of a bigger kick in the ass? And could you think of a guy who would take that more to heart than Sirianni?
Yeah, I agree.
Like, can you think of a guy who would work as hard if something like that happened?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's one of those guys who would, like, that would happen and he would sort of sink into his shell, because he hears everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
he's
so
very much
like,
with it.
The criticism that would come from that, I think, would drive that guy to triple down.
Yeah.
On everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that makes him a better coach or not, but I think he would respond in the right way.
Yeah.
Again, it's not acceptable. You should not lose to this team.
No.
Flat out, period, end of sentence.
And we'll leave it there.
That's right.
I'll leave it there. Hey man, quick fixated.
Let's do it.
All right. So we talked before the show. You know what this is going to be. So tomorrow is my last day as a principal at Shaw Elementary School. And I just wanted to take a moment and sort of reflect on that, but really talk about what got, what got me to that point, and focus a little bit on it. So I'm just going to start with, I've been through a lot in my life, and I've had a lot of people who have been really supportive of me. And I think, one of the reasons I wanted to become a principal was to have the same impact on a greater population that, like, my teachers had on me, and my, elementary school principal had on me through all my health struggles and things of that nature. So, my dream was to do this. I think, like, we all knew that. You guys, as like my closest friends, all knew that this was the thing I wanted to do the most in my life. And I worked really hard to get to this point. We went to E-Town together. I got my degree there, and then I have 2 master's degrees. One in curriculum instruction and one in a master's, one master's in educational leadership. And you guys, you kind of walked alongside me as I interviewed for multiple principal jobs, because there weren't a lot of assistant principal jobs, and I was a finalist for every single one of them, and I always got the same feedback, which was, you just don't have the experience yet. You got to get out of the classroom and do something different. And, and then the journey continues, right? And you finally land that AP job that was so elusive. Finally, they, create some, and you get one, and you work your tail off in that job, and you get another opportunity at a wonderful district like Cumberland Valley, and, work a couple years there as an assistant principal. I worked as the assistant principal at an elementary school at the same time I was working as an assistant principal at the middle school, and then I was an assistant principal for the virtual academy while I was the assistant principal at the elementary school. So I joke that I've had more positions than I've had years at that district. And then, the chance finally comes along to do the job that you dream of doing, which is lead a building. And there's so many reasons you want to lead a building. You want to, instill passion in teachers for the job that they do, and let them know that they're valued and what they do is really important. And you also want to help them grow and reach the goals that they want to reach as as human beings and adults, right? Both personally and professionally. I know as much about the people in my building as I know about my own family. And I'm really intentional about that because I care about them and they mean the world to me. Because they show up and they work their butts off every day. And they do that for the 25 little kids like your sons that come in to the building and, you know, want to learn and want to grow and become the people who are standing in front of them. And then you do it for the kids because you want them to feel love and compassion from somebody that they respect and value. And you know, for me, the message that I give to my kids every day is that they are loved and they do matter. And they hear that every day. And you know, there's also this idea of being kind. And it's that's so important. And you establish that culture and the people that are with you every day, they rally around that and it becomes the feel of the building, the vibe of the building. So many strangers that walk into our building will compliment the building because of the vibe that it is. And that's because of those people who carry out the vision that you have. And it's so humbling that people will get behind this one idea of, I just want kids to feel loved and safe. And I want you to feel loved and safe when you come to this place. And just walk with me and we can do it together. And for the last year and a half, these people have walked with me and they've done it with me. They've helped me reach this dream that at one point felt very unattainable. And they've walked with me for a year and a half. And sometimes I walk a little bit more quickly than I should and I trip over myself, but they're always there to like pick me back up and be like, no, you're good. We got you. Like we'll pick up those pieces. It's all good. And yeah, there are certainly frustrations that come with this job. Like you and I have talked about those. You've counseled me on a lot of Thursday nights at like 11 o'clock. And, you know, as I struggle through some of those things, I go back to what I just said, which is the people in that building make it worth it. And, you know, because of the health issues that I've had that have popped back up over the last few months, tomorrow I have to, you know, say see you later to people who I've built this like unparalleled love, value, and respect for. And they've been nothing but supportive and caring and understanding and loving to Andrea and myself over the last 2-3 months since I made the announcement. And they've done so much for me that they don't have to do. The gifts, the conversations, the hugs, the tears, you know, you feel like you don't deserve those things because you're a small part of the success of the place. I'm going to leave, but the place is going to continue because of those people. And they don't know this yet, but they're getting this clip. I'm going to send this to them so they can hear, because I don't know that I'm going to be able to say it again in the way that I'm saying it right now. So guys, if you've made it this far, I just want to reiterate what I said to you back when I made this announcement, which is this place is going to continue to be great because of each and every one of you. If I could name you by name right now and list all 80 of you, I would do it. You don't want to hear that. You know how I feel about all of you. You know that I love all of you, whether you've been with us for half a year or you've been with me for the year and a half and you've dealt with me for that full time. I love you for dealing with me every day, for laughing with me, for crying with me, for loving the kids with me, but for showing up and being the people that you are every day for the kids who need it the most. I thank you guys for carrying out my dream with me. And tonight I'm just fixated on the teachers at Shaw and the staff at Shaw Elementary who show up every day and dealt with my crazy, but also loved one another and loved the kids. So I ask for them to fixate on doing that from here on out and continue doing that. So thanks for giving me that opportunity to do it. Regz, I appreciate it, but I love each and every one of you.
Yeah, man. It's what all of us ever talked about. It was always, it was weird even when you started thinking about it to be like, well, Azzy's like going to leave his dream job. right? We've all known it for a long time. But as I've said to you, like you said, many times at 11 o'clock or 11:30 when we get done these things and we just get to talk, I appreciate that. I appreciate you and Andrea coming to this decision. I know it was very difficult, but I think it's the absolute best thing that you're going to do. I can't wait to see where you take this next opportunity. But not only that, this is where I get a chance to tell you that I know that building will live on, but, you know, the whispers are going to be Mr. A, you know, that's what's going to be floating around while the people that you've led continue on your legacy, what you've taught them, what you've tried to establish as the culture. Like, culture matters. We see it, to bring it back to sports, like we see it in sports all the time. The culture that you establish within a team matters all the time. And you were able to establish the culture you always wanted from like the time you were in school thinking about this. Like, this is the culture that you always talked about. So I'm immensely proud of you that you were able to do that in a short period of time. And I'm sure every other teacher in that building would say the same thing. I'm sure they're proud of you. I'm sure they appreciate having you as a leader and as a principal and as a guy who was there not only for them, but for the kids. So I know, as we've talked about many times, it was a tough decision, but ultimately I'm really excited for your next opportunity and for you just being able to be Azzy and be around and not worry about your health so much. So I'm really excited for that, but you've done a great job, man.
Well,
and you did a great job, and not a lot of people can say that they've had their dream job, but you're able to, and you're able to say that you kicked ass. So good for you, man.
Yeah,
Good
that's
for
where
you.
we cut it.
That's right.
I mean, I'm not going to be able to cut this clip. I'm just going to send him the link. So, guys, you got the whole link. Like, that's really what this comes
Just
down
start
to.
at like,
It turned from like 3 minutes to like 10
start
minutes.
at like 55 minutes and then go from there.
If you listen to the whole thing, you get jeans next week. There you go.
There you go.
I still get to make that decision today.
Hey,
like, that's
there
still,
you go.
like, that's happening.
Just a little bit riding on it.
Yeah, we're jeans next week, next month, whatever. I don't, Tony's fine with it.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
It's good. It's fine.
Tell him Regz said you can do it.
There you go. Regz said you could do it. If you're still listening, Regz said you could do it.
That's all you need.
That's your end game. Well, guys, we always, as always, we appreciate you hanging tight with us and listening through the episode. We hope you enjoyed. This episode is a preview. Please know this. As soon as that fourth quarter clock hits 0 on Saturday night, this is another great reason why we're really excited. It's a 8:15 Saturday night game.
Yes,
we will be popping on here.
That is right.
I don't think we're gonna do anything live. We're just gonna record our reaction. I think we might do something live if they, if they get to the Super Bowl or something like that. But for right now, we're just gonna react, talk about what happened and go from there. We won't know who they'll play.
Right.
When we hop on here, I'll probably do some sort of reaction after the Sunday night game to put out there for people. So certainly, guys, like, awesome episode. We always love having these conversations, and of course we're gonna continue having some fun. We were talking about the growth today. Like, it's crazy to us, the growth that we've had as a podcast. It's just wild.
Yeah, I mean, we just tweeted the growth.
10 countries.
The growth that the podcast has had. It's just kind of wild. Like, I'm just gonna pull up the picture real quick because it's almost ridiculous, and just stay with me because it's crazy. 300% growth. Over 1,300 downloads. Like you said, 10 countries in 58 episodes. So that's more than one a week for this entire year. Over 4,400 minutes of podcasts. I mean, we were just talking about it before we kind of started the podcast today, just with the consistency and the numbers we're seeing on the download side. 3 more subscribers to the YouTube channel in a month. Look,
keep it up.
We can't say enough about people enjoying this or even sharing it with other people and letting people know about it. As I will continue to say till the end of time, if this podcast had more than 2 listeners outside of me and Azzy, like, I'd be excited about it. If that number just said 3 every time we put an episode up, it would blow my mind. So the 33 that we see, the almost 300 views on some of the videos that we put on YouTube, like, you having that Halloween experience, like, that kind of stuff will just continually blow my mind. And we're just going to continue to work at it, man. Like you said,
for sure,
slow and steady. We're just here to keep pumping out some good content for you all.
And stick with us, because we got some stuff up our sleeves, some tricks and some surprises. We got a big green surprise coming your way here soon. Actually,
we're not
a big green one, Regz.
We're not resting on the laurels, baby. We're going at it, man.
Got a big green surprise coming your way here soon.
Oh my god!
All right, y'all. Wild. Make sure that you click subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Go ahead and follow us on Instagram at the B&B Podcast platform. You can follow us on the at B&B Podcast on Twitter as well. You can follow this specific podcast at Phixated Pod on Twitter. You can follow me at the Mic Drop 5 and Regz at Big Regz with a Z. You can follow us on the Phixated fan page on Facebook, which is where you get these types of opportunities to have your question asked on the show and us talk about it for a little bit. We thank those of you who sent us questions this evening. Once again, that was awesome in like a 20-minute span to get six of those really well thought out questions. Well done, gentlemen. That's done. And of course, we will catch you guys on Saturday night.
Yep.
Hopefully with a good reaction, a celebration, and another week of Eagle football to look forward to. So we appreciate y'all. Make sure that you subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and rate and share it with somebody. We love y'all for listening. Have a good rest of the weekend, I guess. Now
just a couple of days, man.
A couple of days, and we'll be right back at it. So we'll see you guys on Sunday morning. But go Birds in the meantime. Go Birds, baby.
Appreciate you, everybody. Thanks for listening and watching. Go Birds!
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there and way out of here.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.